Real Talk is proudly sponsored by Y-Wave P20 Pro and MTN.
Good evening and welcome to Real Talk, and I'm your host, Azania Mosaka. The journey of life is one filled with twists and turns. So imagine living your best life with everything your heart desires, and then one day you lose it all. My guests tonight are beaming lights of hope for the persistent fear of losing everything we have worked hard for. So let's welcome Nthabiseng Ramaboe to Real Talk. Good evening, Nthabiseng, welcome.
Evening, Azania.
Now, you are one of those people who's built their brand from scratch.
Yes.
You are one of the lights when it comes to the culinary arts at the moment. There's so much excitement around you. But your journey to entrepreneurship actually started way back in your childhood. Your mom inspired you.
My mom, when we were kids, she was a single mom when we were younger. And she had to work and also raise money. And she would do that by selling. I remember when we were kids, I used to sell the Cross My Heart bras. And she would sell chocolates. So now I was that bold child that was willing to go to neighbors' doors and knock.
Right.
And sell. So I
the
think
selling
for me,
skills are inculcated in you from an early age.
Yeah.
So you leave home, you've got 800 rands in your pocket.
Yes.
What were your hopes? What were your fears? What did you set out to do?
You finish matric and everyone's so excited because then you're thinking tertiary, it needs to happen, I need to be free now and leave home. And then you realize, no, we don't have money for that. you know, we can't afford to. So I remember and I thought, okay, I'll correspond. I'll go to Technical SA. And when I went, my mom literally brought out 800 timobo.
Yeah,
there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. And I went. And fortunately, 3 months into it, I entered a beauty contest and I won Miss Technical SA. So I then spoke to the dean and said, listen, instead of a prize, can I rather work my way through school? So this is 16 and a half, fresh from home, and you have all your friends, I mean, they're at school and everyone's partying full time. I couldn't do that.
You had different priorities.
Yeah, because I have to wake up at 5 and go to work.
And pay your way.
And pay my way, yeah. But when I look back, I'm actually grateful for that because it's helped. I mean, those were the years that formed the person that I am today. As a result, I've never been able to do just one thing.
Yes.
So even when I was working, I would have a thing on the side that I was doing. So long story short, I Technical SA, I shifted and did a BCom marketing with UNISA. And I remember starting in the industry with the likes of MTN.
Wow.
Yes.
Because you were actually one of the top 100 female executives at the time.
At SAA, actually. So this was South African Airways. That was my last job. I was part of the top 100 executives under Kaya at the time. And I was heading the CSI department, Corporate Social Investments. Yes. I was responsible I was on the forefront of making sure that SAA is a responsible corporate citizen. So, and as you know, with corporates, you have to give back to communities that are empowering you. So that was my job.
But then there you are, you're doing corporate and then you go into business as well. Yes. There was a time when you had 3 boutiques, you had a facilities management company. That is a grueling day.
It is a grueling day, but then when you are used to it, because I'm used to maximizing my time, I'm literally working. If I'm not sleeping, I'm working. Like I'm on my phone and I'm doing something. So when I was at SAA, as one of the executives, you get a business class ticket anywhere in the world for 1,000 rand. So I thought, okay, I have good context because in my early 20s, I lived in Italy, Bari.
Wow.
Yeah, that was love. I was following love, so I was there. And I managed to build good relations in the fashion industry, in the fashion space. So when I was at SAA, I thought, okay, so let me make use of these relationships. I then reached out, I would travel and source. I had my first boutique while I was still employed at SAA. I had my office in Parkhurst. Parkhurst then when 6th Street, it was the fashion district of Parkhurst. Across the road from me, there was Julian, and David Kale was up the road. So this was around 2006. So I'm working full-time at SAA, but I have an office at Parkhurst. I have a team.
You're counting money.
I'm counting money. Life is good. And
so let's talk about this life that you were leading. As you said, you were traveling. It's the business class seats. It is luxury cars.
All the way.
A fabulous mansion.
All the way. All the way. I'm in mansions in Hyde Park. Not mansions, one. But a mansion in Hyde Park. I had a driver with my Jaguar and a Porsche Cayenne, running around the city with it. Life was good. So from my first store in Parkhurst, I then opened another one in Maponya Mall and my flagship store in Melrose Arch. And the brand was Bello Couture. And this was 2009. I was actually one of the first Black entrepreneurs to open at Melrose Arch. It was a big thing. I mean, for me, that was like the highlight of it all. And I thought, oh my gosh, I left home with 800 rands. And look at me now. I have 3 shops and I'm cleaning government buildings in town. Life is good. I mean, it didn't take a man because every time, this was me, every time I'd have to wake up because I don't like.
You don't like mornings?
I mean, from 16 and a half, life has been like that.
Sure.
So every time I think, oh my gosh, when my husband comes, when I do get married, that guy is going to have to take care of me because I'm taking time off.
Yes.
But, you know, it was such a rewarding thing for me to look back and think, wow, look what I've done.
What I've
on my own. Look at what I've built.
So all those dreams that you had when you were younger, the struggles that you watched your mum going through and what she had to do to provide for you, did it feel like it was worth it? You were being rewarded for all of that hard work?
Absolutely. I mean, I knew very early, and this is something that I am it's very personal to me, especially like as a Black person. I knew very early, I mean, you have to work your way out of
poverty.
Out of poverty. It's not free. And that's why I don't get it when people are complaining about their conditions, but they're not willing to do whatever it takes. You know, people would say to me, you work too hard. But I love comfort.
What did you sacrifice? Were there sacrifices?
Absolutely, a lot. I mean, you sacrifice relationships, for one, because I'm not available for dates all the time. So you have to understand, you know, and you get that from, I mean, they would say, no, look, but you're always working. Yeah, but I have bills to pay.
I have employees, responsibilities. Wow.
So you do sacrifice, but then it's your life. So, you know, you're okay with it.
And you're chasing your dreams. What a build-up. What an incredible story. The way you were on the rise. But we'll explore how everything subsequently then turned. So we'll continue our chat with Chef Ndi, as she's now called, after the break. So stay tuned. Welcome back to Real Talk. If you've just joined us, we're speaking to Chef Ndi about her journey from working from the tender age of 16 to being a millionaire in her late 20s and then sadly losing it all. So we heard about the climb to the success. Let's talk about when things started going wrong. So there you are, you have your facilities management business, you have your 3 boutiques, and life is great, your life is full. So what were the first signs, the early signs that things were bad?
I think the first signs were I was just too busy and the focus was growing business. So when I was young, I would research all the successful people and I learned very early that you need to diversify because you can't have your eggs in one basket. But the mistake I did was I focused a lot on just injecting into the business, back into the business and growing it instead of just nurturing, you know, and harvesting. So I got to a point where I've invested so much into retail, and retail in South Africa had reached a ceiling. I mean, everyone would travel, buy go Turkey, buy go China, and go and get clothes. How's yours different? You say you get them from Italy, but are you sure? And then Zara came into the game. I remember for me, that's what changed it. Zara, because then you get premium
fast fashion. It's fast fashion,
but
it's
very
premium,
accessible.
It's today and it's affordable.
But very affordable. So And I was, after 10 years into it, I was just making, like breaking even. And it's painful because you are paying rent for Melrose Arch only 80,000. You're not even counting overheads and all these other things. And you're dealing with someone's here, there, and the other. And I'm taking money from the facilities business, trying to help this one that's suffocating.
Yes.
You know, so it's just a chess game. And I got to a point where, I mean, I'd consult. I remember this guy, I go to him for advice on business. And he said to me, the thing is, you're way too emotional with this thing. Look at it, it's not working, walk away.
Because you kept your boutique businesses running for 2 years,
Yes,
even though they weren't profitable.
Absolutely, because I had to take hard money before Luminance. Government wasn't financing businesses in the fashion industry. So it was all money that I worked hard for. Oh my gosh, out of my pocket. I mean, Melrose Arch, for instance, it took to just open under 2 million, and this was 2009. And remember where I started. So for me, this is very sentimental. I'm not letting go. Even though it's not working out, I'll find a way. But eventually, it was just too painful.
Yes.
Like you can't.
What was that pain? What was going on? Because
the pain
as you say, the businesses were struggling. You're taking money from Peter to pay Paul this side.
So I had to close Parkers because I couldn't afford to pay rental. And then you've got someone's and I'm thinking, okay, so I'm gonna streamline and then close this one and wait a little bit. So everything, literally, circumstances pushed me out. And if I were to do it over again, I would just not put too much emotion into business. If it's not working out, it's not working out.
Yes,
it's okay, you've lost, but count your losses and let it end here at least.
So be critical, be cold about it. Really
Be cold about it. Yeah.
Shut it down.
Shut it down. So after the discussion with the guy, and I thought, oh, so I'm tired. It's been so long. So I'm going to shut down everything. Shut it down. Afraid. I was scared because the husband still hadn't come, still, you know, to take care of me. So, but anyway, I shut down everything. Fortunately, I had my house in Hyde Park as an asset and investment. So I thought, I'm going to have to try and do this right. Business is a gamble. It's the only thing I know. I'm not going back to work.
Yes.
And also, I like to work better. I find I work better from a point of passion. So I thought, okay, what else do you love that you haven't explored? And food was the thing. So I sold my house, packed up my bags.
Yes, you took a trip, didn't you?
Yes, to LA. I took my dog, Rocky. I like to make life a little romantic where I can.
Even
you know?
maybe hard.
Yes.
Things may be rock bottom, but you have your dog,
So I was
giving you
just
unconditional love.
Listen, I was walking around LA as that girl from Africa who came all the way with her dog. And Rocky's a special breed, and they love that breed in the US. I had no clue. And in LA, it's dog friendly. I used the time to research. I used the time to research the food industry. I used the time to research and also just heal. Because, you know, like when you close a business, it's like a breakup. So walk away from it and forget.
So were you mourning?
Not too much though, you know, because you can't also spend too much time mourning. But I was just making sure that I'm okay. You've lost. It's okay. Like, but then I would say it's a seed. So that's a seed. You will reap it at some point, but be okay.
So wait, I just want to understand this properly.
Yeah.
You closed the businesses.
Yeah.
Where was the facilities management business?
Facilities management business is a business that is centered around system yadi tender. And you know how it goes with the environment in South Africa. When new leadership comes, they come with their, you know, everything changes.
With their own
and
suppliers.
Suddenly, every supplier, they look at you, who did you come with? And I was also very tired of that. I just felt I needed to just go into a space where I feel very happy about waking up in the morning because the whole work thing will happen throughout. I mean, you know. So
I'm saying, let's take this voice note because we have a question from one of our viewers for you. Let's listen out.
Good evening to you, Azania, and your guest, Chef Nti. This is Oscar. Actually, I just want to ask you, Chef Nti, one question. How do I go about in terms of getting the right school and also getting funding? Because I'm really, really, really passionate about cooking. I recently discovered that I love cooking, I love food. When I started working in a restaurant, which was a 5-star restaurant here in Durban, and I've actually learned so much that I fell in love with the industry, and I want to pursue a career into the industry.
So
Because you're a chef now.
Yes.
Part of the road to success, flying
Yes.
back to South Africa, you decided to pursue a passion.
start where you are. So even when I came back, so when I was in the US, I did some short courses. One of them was the business of blogging, because I thought, okay, how can I make money when I'm studying, because I need to pay bills. So start where you are. You know, if you have to bake, you have to, because people always have this idea of waiting for someone to support you to do, no, start where you are, you know, and just respect just those small beginnings and allow it to grow with you,
Yes.
because then you're going to learn your mistakes and learn what you need to be learning at every phase, because you can't start with a fully functional business and think you can run it,
Yes.
because you don't understand it. Yeah, so start where you are, don't wait for funding, cook, bake.
Yes, find the customers
Find
close
the
by.
customers, and your customers are your
Within your own
family. Word of
network,
mouth is the best
absolutely.
one.
Because you now have a restaurant in
I do
Maboneng,
too,
Taste
in
Kitchen.
Maboneng, Taste Kitchen. So Taste Kitchen is social dining, and so what it is we have a chef's table, and everyone sits there, and you eat every single thing that's been cooked at the restaurant. So everything comes on the table, and we share like family. Because why? I believe food is a love expression. You know, those moments needs to be special.
Right.
So this is a place where you come and explore and experience South African food with a modern twist.
So you've reinvented yourself.
Absolutely.
What would you say is the lesson from having built the success that you've had to losing everything to now a different direction altogether?
The lesson for me was, a friend said this, you know, I went looking and I found myself. The lesson is just be true to who you are. You know, I mean, just be okay with who you are. Start there. And be okay with your truth and live your truth. I mean, I remember even when I started in the industry, when I tell my story generously, and I'd go, sometimes I'd have 50 rands and I'd have to struggle with 50 rands for a week.
Yeah.
And that would be food for me, food for my dogs, because they're my children again. You know, and then you have to buy sanitary pads. And but those are the moments that have the depth of who I am comes from there, because you appreciate life, you appreciate the little things about life, and the beauty that it has to offer. It keeps giving. Just don't stop trying.
Yes, and I think don't be afraid. Don't be
Yeah.
afraid to change direction and go in that direction when
Yes.
you have failed elsewhere. And I'm saying
Absolutely.
thank you so much.
Pleasure.
That was Chef Nti's story. Her resilience and her hard-working ethic is the reason why she has successfully managed to pick herself up from a very bad fall, and she's bounced back all the way to the top. After this, Dr. Lucas Moloi is going to be joining us after the break. He's going to be sharing his remarkable story of triumph. We'll see you after that. Welcome back to Real Talk. Tonight, we're talking to people that have once lost everything they worked for and their incredible story of how they bounced back. Joining me on the couch is business coach, speaker, and author of The Everyday Battlefield. If there's anyone who encompasses the traits of a true bounce back story, it's this guy right here, because he made his first million by the age of 23. And then he ended up filing for bankruptcy 3 times by the age of 35. He's the perfect guy to dish out advice on how to pick yourself up. So please welcome Dr. Lucas Moloi to Real Talk. How the doc?
I'm good, thanks, and you as well.
I'm good, thank you.
Not bad.
So just like we did with Ntabi saying, let's understand how you built your empires. Because for you, it's been a journey of starting, falling, starting again. So at 17, you go into the modeling agency business. Very young, but why modeling agency?
Look, it was a forced marriage with business.
Oh.
So at the age of 17 and that, you know, like a normal black family, you educate the eldest child, and then they will take their siblings to school.
Yes.
And that formula works brilliantly. Only until the eldest child passes on. So at the age of 17 and that, nicely around July and that, my elder brother had, my mother, who was a domestic worker at the time, had taken all the money in the family,
Yes.
educated my elder brother and that. He's now an electrical engineer. He gets a job. He doesn't work for a month. He passes on. So the reality is you're not going to school. You know, there is no money in the family. There's just not enough time to build the reserves again. So I find myself in a situation where there is no money to go to school. So what do you do? So wrote my matric exams, and that come January and that everybody is going to school. and now you left in the township, there's nothing to do, and you've got to come up with a plan.
Yes.
So I remember sitting there and saying to myself, look, am I going to end up on the street corner like everybody else that says, what can I do? And then an idea came. So back then, Valentine's Day was a big thing, you know, and I thought, look, Valentine's Day is coming in February, and that how about I organize a beauty pageant? So I organized a beauty pageant, and Mr. and Miss Valentine. It went well, but I didn't have money as well to start. And this is where the biggest lesson comes
Yes.
through, you know, start with what you've got. Be able to negotiate your way out of things. So the first thing that I do, here I am, I don't have money, I need to organize a beauty pageant. So what do? I go to the guy that hires out a hall, and I say, I need a hall, how much do you charge? And
Yeah.
he says to me, 75 rand. And I say to him, great, I'll pay you 150. So he looks
But
at me, says,
after.
150, I say, I'll pay you 150, one catch. I pay you on the day of the show.
After the door taking
You
and
understand?
all of that.
So
yeah.
he was not keen on that idea, but I said to him, look, there's two situations here. You're either going to keep the hall, rent it out to someone that is going to pay you 75 rand, or you're going to risk no one coming to rent it for the day, or you're going to take a chance on me and get 150.
And he did.
And he did.
Yes.
And I said, now I need a sound. And I went and negotiated the same deal for sound. Now, I had the two most needed things in this thing. I wrote my posters by hand, went around the township posting them on every street pole
Yes.
with plastic and flour that is made in the plastic and that, and, you know, posted these posters around everywhere. The day came, the show took place, everything, and guess who was at the door? Me again, you know, collected my own money. And this is where I landed. When you are in business, the critical process of your business is you do yourself. And if your business is about cleaning, you have to be the
You have
best
to get in
cleaner
there.
there
You've
has
got to
to
get
be.
stuck in every facet of it.
Exactly.
You have to do yourself.
be the best in every aspect of
And
your
I want
business.
us to focus on those lessons because you put them down so succinctly in your book.
Yeah.
But then past that, past the modeling agency, which had absolutely humble beginnings, you know, you were no tabalatsa, you hustled your way into making this a reality. And then fast forward, there you are, you have a business Junto group, which specializes in luxury vehicles and property. And you're making serious cash. What were you worth at the time?
Look, Junto itself, I started when I was still in matric, you know. So I was fascinated by the name. I remember one day I liked reading. So I was paging through the dictionary and that, and I saw this name Junta. And Junto was coming, and it was a group of people which were brought together by the same idea. I said, I like this name, I'm going to use it in the future. So when I then started the business in 2004 and that, this was the name I then went with. Fast forward to that, we started with consulting and that, and we made our way into renting out of luxury cars. Now, I love cars. I collect cars even now. And there I am, and I say, I want to have that car and that car, but I don't have money to buy all these cars.
Yes.
So what do I do to make sure I get this? And I got involved with a group of people, and what we did was to come together, contribute cars that you had, and then we went out looking for people that had these luxury cars and they were not using them, and we started saying, how about you give us your Rolls Royce, we rent it out, we'll rent it out for 30K, we'll pay you 15 and we walk away with 15. And people were keen on this.
Wow. So it's happening, it's cooking. But then how does someone then have 3 bankruptcies? One would think that the first one is lesson enough for you to get your ducks in a row and for it not to happen again.
You know, the one lesson that you never learn as an entrepreneur is how to not be passionate. So every single time I went bankrupt, it had nothing to do with my management of money. It had everything to do with my passion for what I do. So when I love an idea, when I believe in it, I will spend everything I have, including my socks, because I want to make sure that it works. So that's how I went bankrupt. Every time I got bankrupt is because I took everything that I had everything that backed me up, and I put it in an idea. And every time when that idea failed, it failed with everything that I had.
Wow.
So the first bankruptcy was when 2008, when things went a little bit pear-shaped
Yes,
with
the
the economy and that, people couldn't rent out luxury cars anymore. And you have got these cars that you still need to pay, and that the bills are just too high. You don't want to let go. That attachment to the business, I love it, I started it. And you start taking money from the bank to subsidize a business that's dying.
Right.
And I like what Shaventi said earlier on. If it's dying, no amount of money is going to save it.
Be clinical, cut
Cut your losses,
it right there.
move.
So what is the impact, what is the effect of declaring bankruptcy?
Look, let me say this to you. How do you go back to a family that you have gotten used to living in a R1 million house, in a couple of properties and that, and you tell them, listen, we're giving everything away, we're going to rent? How do you tell people that I'm moving out of a R1 million house, a multi-million rent house, to live in a garage? How do you tell people that I'm no longer going to drive the most luxurious British sedan into a taxi again? And that is the impact of bankruptcy. All your, the confidence in yourself, the belief in yourself is really tested, because what people knew about you,
Yes.
it's now no longer there. Now you stand there naked, and people get to know exactly who you are on the inside.
And dare I say, you get to know who you are without all of these
Without all these
material
things.
things. I want us to pause it right there, because you found it in you to, in those difficult moments, to actually put these thoughts down on paper, these lessons as you were going through them on paper, and of course published the book. My conversation with Dr. Lucas Moloi continues after the break. Don't miss his story of building himself back up. Welcome back to Real Talk. In tonight's edition of Monday Motivation, we have Dr. Lucas Moloi on the couch, and he's been sharing his incredible story of bouncing back every time life took a jab at him. So what do you do after losing millions of rands, closing down numerous businesses, and declaring bankruptcy 3 times? Well, I'll tell you what you do. You write a book on how to keep going when life knocks the wind out of you. And here to tell us more about what he's written about in this book is the man himself, Dr. Lucas Moloi. But before we get into the wisdom, the pearls that you share in this book, because I think there's so much to latch onto in it. You were married when you declared your first bankruptcy, and you subsequently divorced as a result of your financial losses.
Yeah, well, it was not yet marriage and that, but you know, it was a serious relationship, and you get into things like that. And look, again, you've got to understand that some people will be in your life for some things, but not always that people are in your life for money. But when you put people in a position where you get them used to certain things, and later on those things are taken away from them, the reaction is not the same.
You're accused of being selfish.
Yes. So I've been told, and one says, what are the sacrifices of entrepreneurship? And that, my sacrifices of entrepreneurship is, it's 4 failed serious relationships. The person comes and says, you're the most selfish man I've met. You think only about yourself and the success you want. You think only about what you want and nothing about what is good for us.
You risk us.
You risk us. You put things in harm's way, and that, look at us now. How do we tell the people that all those things are not there anymore? And that's what entrepreneurs have to go through in this journey.
So your book, let's talk about that. The title is Everyday Battlefields, right? And in it you talk about the 20-year philosophy and the 3 life stages. Just explain that further, unpack it quickly.
Look, so when I started the business, I realized one thing. I realized that our lives is probably made up of 3 stages, and each stage of our lives is made up of plus or minus 20 years. So the first 20 years of your life you spend learning. So you are in school, you learn to walk, you learn to talk, you start learning how life works and everything, and you go to school. And when the second phase of life starts, it starts with you getting the first job and everything. This is the space where normally you break out into what you are going to become and be remembered as. So at that stage, when we get into the second stage of life, many people settle in a job. They work throughout all that stage up until then they are 40. At 40, that's when people say, I want to stabilize, I want to start a family, I want now to build something for the future and that. And they start at this 40 up until 60 years, whereby now they go and, they retire.
Yeah.
And now your life really starts.
Okay.
But I looked at this and I said, why? Why is life built in this way? And I realized that number one is the education system. Number two, it's what society has designed our life to be. Now, there is no need of you cutting your life in such stages, and especially such set time frames and that. But if you want to succeed, you've got to understand that success doesn't start in this next stage of your life. It starts at the first stage of the life, because that's where your success lies. That's where you become different from everyone.
Now I see your rationale. I see your rationale behind the your youth development initiatives. I see it now, right? But in the book as well, you talk about developing a destructive mindset, a mindset that is not easily destructible, the power of positive thinking.
You see, the thing is this, you are everything you believe you are. And when I say everything you believe, I mean everything that in your subconsciousness you believe you are. And this is not the same as sitting looking people in the eye and saying, I'm okay.
Yeah.
It means you believe that you're okay, not telling people that you're okay. And once you have built that mindset, listen, I don't care what situation I'm in. When I say to myself, I'm going to pull out of that situation, what everybody says to me, it's plain simple noise, because I don't hear it. Because in my mind, I'm prepared, in my mind, I'm set. I am going to pull through. So I started boxing at a very late stage in life. So people say to me, well, why would you go on boxing like that? And I said, because it helps me get into a certain phase. So if you put the boxing gloves on and you face up with a punching bag and you hit it, and every time you hit this punching bag, say, that gives you that thing. It psychs you up to believe right in your mind that I can beat this bag.
Right.
And that's the mindset you need to build in life. In your business, in everything that you do, once you've built that mindset, if you get punched and you fall, you still say to yourself, I can still win this fight. When you watch boxers fighting, 11th round, everybody knows that this guy has been beaten, but he still believes that I need one knockout punch to win this match.
That's one knockout punch.
That's what you need.
Okay. So you've started this youth entrepreneurial program. Even your child, your daughter, at 7 years old, has her own business.
Yeah.
So what is the aim? What is the objective of this initiative?
So here's my debate, my argument about it. What does school teach us? School teach us, go to school from 7 years up until you are 18, get a job, build experience for 3 years, then get into junior management, then work into junior management, middle management, executive, retire as an executive, and then you've got money. Then you can retire, go on pension at 65, at least you have money. I say nonsense. Why do you have to spend your whole lifetime to only live well for 10 years, 20 years, 5 years for others? Now, we have got this thing that kids cannot do things, kids can do this only and not do. So at the age of 3 years, I realized that my daughter had interest in a few things. One of the things that she had interest in was planets. So I opened up and I said, learn planets, learn what do they do, how they are, and the names of the planets and everything and that. And at the age of 3 years, she could recite planets, which one comes after which one. Now, we moved from there into something else and into something else. So we broke down the barriers of what is it that you should teach a child at which age. So we broke down the barriers. At the age of 5, I asked her, what do you want to be when you grow up? Looks me in the eye and says, well, Daddy, I want to be a fashion designer. So I said, good. Now, are you going to be a fashion designer who designs clothes for someone else, or are you going to be a fashion designer for yourself? So she says, I want my business like you. So I said, so what is the name of your business? And she says to me, Cinderella Sparkle. So I said, okay, that's fine. Following day, I buy a domain name, Cinderella Sparkle. We start a website. After that, I register a business, Cinderella Sparkle, and she's the owner of the business.
Yes,
and
now she's selling dresses.
And we say, there.
So what's the
Princess
lesson in
dresses.
that? That we should inculcate an entrepreneurial spirit from as early as possible?
We need to build a culture that says to our kids and that you need to build your dream and not someone else's dream. Don't live your life building someone else's dream. If you fail to build your dream, someone is going to pay you to help them build their own dream.
Right.
So that's a choice that you make. But a dream, you are going to build a dream. It's either yours or someone else's. But we live to build dreams.
Yes. Wow. So you're writing another book. You're busy with another book about Kasipreneurs.
Kasiprenneurship. So what we did about Kasiprenneurship is that I went back and looked and said, what are the things that I've learned in this road? How do I help the township people, the black people, to build legacy businesses? Because that's the problem that we have. We've got the Jews and all the other nationalities and races and that, they build businesses for legacy. We're the only people that build businesses for a lifestyle. Now, you can never change the future of a country when the people of that country are building businesses for lifestyle. So I build a business, and as long as it maintains my lifestyle, I don't care about tomorrow. I'll be dead, and if I'm dead, I don't care if there's a business or not in the family. Other people care about 5 generations from them. So I don't own a business. I don't own a house. I don't own a car. Everything belongs to the family trust, because my whole thing is that I take myself not as a business person. I am employed by the family trust that I set up to build this business so that I can hand it over to the owners that are my kids, who have to then also deliver it to the owners that are my grandkids. And that is how it works.
I want to end off with you by giving us 3 quick, as bullet points, 3 quick lessons that you've learned.
Look, the lessons that I've learned in life is that it's never too late nor too early to start something.
Okay,
you need to start it. The second one is that believe in yourself, even if the most closest people that know you better than anyone don't believe in you. And the third lesson is that it is not about you. You are not that important where the sun will stop rising tomorrow if you die. If you fall and die now, the watch that you are wearing will still go even if you are the one that paid for it. So don't live your life as if it will end with you. Live your life so that you can build a better tomorrow. Build your life so that a legacy continues. That's what we are here for the legacy to continue.
What an inspiration you are. Can't wait for the second book. Absolutely cannot wait. Kasiprenneurship is what it's going to be called. Well, join me after the break as we chat to financial advisor Gerald Mwandiambira on future-proofing your business and your finances. More on Real Talk after this. Acting CEO for the South African Savings Institute, Gerald Mwandiambira, joins me now in studio with experience in banking, stockbroking, insurance, and investments. He's the perfect guy to speak to about future-proofing your finances and bouncing back from a very bad fall, as we heard from our previous guests. Gerald, welcome. Welcome to the show.
Always a pleasure.
You've just heard some incredible stories, incredible stories. So how can we go about better preparing ourselves? Because the reality of this fall, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're employed, is very real for everyone.
I think the reality is that, as the good doc was talking, we need to stop seeing money as anything more than it is, other than exchange of value. What is important is time. If you want to look at saying, Azania, how wealthy are you? I need to look at your lifestyle and say, if you were to stop doing what you're doing today, how long could you survive without someone handing something to you?
Yeah.
And for most people, it's less than 3 months. And you work 10 years and you can't produce 10,000 Rand on the spot. And that's the problem. We've elevated money to something it is not. Quality of life is about buying time. It's about that intergenerational wealth. So whatever you are doing right now should be geared at buying time in the future, because if you are not selling your time to someone else and building their dream, you can sell, someone else can buy into your dream and you can make it happen.
Right.
So It's a mind thing. It's about saying, how do I have a relationship with money?
A healthy.
And a healthy
long-term.
relationship is about saying, see beyond yourself.
But a lot of us are reliant on that month to month. You know, it's hand to mouth. So what do we need to start doing? I know July is savings month. The topic of savings is foremost in a lot of people's minds. But at the same time, some will tell you that we don't even have anything to put away.
I know a lot of people say that, but as long as you've got an income, you've got the capacity to think about saving. You've never been down until you're driving all the way for 60 Ks with a light of fuel which is saying it's not there.
It can happen anytime.
You've never been in that space where you don't have airtime. And even the please call me's don't work. You've done so many in a day. And that's the space often you find yourself when you fall. Because to fall, you have to come from a height. And when you go down to the bottom, it's rough. And sometimes you can't pick yourself up. Some people, you can't look after yourself. You stop even bathing. You sit and you become a couch potato and you feel sorry for yourself. And it's because you've been defined by what you are doing. A lot of us are defined by our business card. You're defined by your job. You're defined by how people see you. But as we said earlier on in the show, until you've been made naked to realize that you are nothing without those things, then you can start living life. And unfortunately, the reason why most people end up in entrepreneurship is because the world defines you. They will ITC you. They will declare you bankrupt, so you can't get a job.
Yeah.
You can't get employment. So the only other route is to sell who you really are, your core, which is yourself.
Right, and I'm glad you touched on entrepreneurship because that seems to be the outcome of this bounce back narrative that we've been hearing about. How important is it, you know, that we all have that thing, the passion that we're pursuing on the side?
Well, I think the first thing is not everyone can be an entrepreneur. Not everyone can bounce. That's why some people, when they fall down, they need a job. And that's all they'll ever want. I want a job.
And that's okay too, right?
And that's okay.
That's okay.
And those are the people who are designed to work and build other people's dreams and build smaller dreams. But the people with bigger dreams realize that the only thing they have to sell when they are down and out is themselves. And hence some people become entrepreneurs. They will think of creative ways to survive. They will find a way and a means to get someone else to pay them for their time. And I think one of the things we need to ask ourselves as individuals is, what are your strengths? And your strengths are not what you studied. Sometimes it's about saying, look at your family. What are the key traits you see? In my family, it's a family of communicators. And how do I know? We've got preachers and teachers.
Yes.
So I knew all along my gift somewhere had to do with talking.
Right.
And I was busy selling, but I was actually tapping into my gift, which is talking. So I think we all need to take that step back because some of us have become defined by our qualification and we've become defined by our job. And ultimately, some of us are even defined by our marriages and relationships.
Right. So let's move away a little bit from losing everything. So I'm steadily going along, things are humming along. How important is it then to diversify? What kind of things can I start looking at to make sure that if things did start going wrong, what do I fall back on? Yes, the 3-month salary, some would even say 6 months if you can, but having enough to carry you over that period in case you lose your job. But beyond that, what fail-safes can we put in place?
The lifeblood for most people is the I word, income. So you need to have other things that generate income because someone who is truly wealthy is sleeping, yet they are getting wealthier because income is being generated in other streams. So typically speaking, you need 4 income streams. One is your primary income, which is your day job, which is to feed you and to clothe you. You need a passive income, which is an investment sitting somewhere, which is earning interest, accumulating compound. And a third income stream sometimes it's from your saving. And a fourth income stream, if you're really, really passionate, is to be an entrepreneur while you're at your job. Because there are certain people who go to sleep when others get home, they start their second job, they start their second life. But then when we see these people retire early in life, we say, how did they do it? It's because they made that choice. And ultimately, money is one of those things where you decide you want to be a money master or a money slave. A money master is one who controls their time and makes people work for them, or a money slave who ultimately works for other people in terms of making their realities come true. And either way, it's a choice.
But Gerald, we heard, especially with Chef Ndi, even with Dr. Lucas to an extent, that there they were, hands in different pots. Their eggs were in different baskets. So they made sure that they're not dependent on one thing. And yet, it all fell apart.
The word invest, the most important part is the second half, which is vest, which is getting something out. The problem sometimes with the entrepreneurs is they don't set a limit.
Okay.
And if you are shooting limitless to the sky, to the moon, to the sun,
Keep stretching and
you
stretching.
keep stretching yourself, you are at a greater risk of falling. So often when you, before you invest, you need to set a goal. So even as an entrepreneur, what is your ultimate goal? Because if you want to create enough wealth for one generation, you need to stop and consolidate. And that's one of the things which did come out. If you don't stop and consolidate, you keep pushing yourself. And also you will have that attachment that I must keep going for the sky. And that's important, that sometimes you need to know when the limit and draw a line. And even when you look at professional investors or people who are extremely wealthy, they take profits. And that's the point where you say, I've made enough. Let me take some cream off the top and put it aside.
Yes.
The problem with the consummate entrepreneur is that enough is never enough. And that's a danger to yourself, it's a danger to your relationships, and it's a danger to your family. And often the thing which makes you start slowing down is children. As you can hear from Dr. Lucas, he's already talking about his daughter because he's realizing that he has a responsibility. And often when responsibility comes, then you start to slow down. But the greatest and wealthiest men in the world who create the fantastic wealth often have very bad relationships. They have no marriages, and their children's relationships are bad because they keep aiming for the top. But if you consolidate at some point, you start realizing that there's more to life than chasing paper.
Right.
And I think it's important as well that we realize that money is important to make things happen, but it is not everything.
Yeah. No, I think those are very important lessons. So someone who hasn't even done their first bounce, you know, they are yet to get out of the gates, because we do have a lot of young people who have a sense of hopelessness about the lack of employment that's available in the marketplace. And all they want to do is get out there and do something, you know, even if it means building it all up only to lose it again. They would have had an opportunity and a lesson out of it, an experience as to how you can get back out there. What advice do you give there?
For the young people who are starting out, maybe in their first jobs, it's start putting aside something from day one. It will accumulate over time. For those who haven't been given that opportunity, find a way to differentiate yourself, be different, because often people buy into that thing about you that's different from everyone else.
Right.
And often if you do the herd mentality, you will be out with the herd with your CV waiting for someone to reply you.
Ish, and building other people's dreams. I think that hit hard. That part about, are you building other people's dreams, or are you going to spend your time and energy building your own? I think that was one of the biggest drawouts for me anyway out of this conversation. Thank you so much, Gerald.
Awesome.
Well, my guests tonight have shown us just how temporary material loss is, and that with hard work and determination, anything can be regained. So thank you to all my guests for joining me on Real Talk tonight, and I hope that you at home are inspired to just never, ever lose hope. Isitingo is up next. Our time is up, but we'll see you again tomorrow night. Good night.
Real Talk is proudly sponsored by Y-Way P20 Pro and MTN.
MTN.